Hey guys, I'm going to start a new video series today on, a lot of this is aimed at beginner preppers, but there's stuff in here that you guys may find interesting. It's basically, I'm going to go over a list of the areas of survival. It'll take several videos because I don't want one video to be, X amount of hours or whatever long. So as I started it out, I was going to go 6 areas of survival. And there's a lot more than 6, but some of them I've combined. The areas of survival, run like shelter and cordage, fire and lighting, blah, 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 blah. But I want to go into more in-depth detail of things that you may or may not want in your kit. Not all of this I have in my stuff. Not all of it is something that you might have, because everybody's kit is different, okay? Everybody's circumstances are different. So in order for, what works for me might not work for you. But for anybody that is thinking of ideas of what they think they need to put in their kit or how to put a kit together and what to put in it, this is the lists for you. I've made these lists so I could put it down in hard copy in front of me so I don't try not to forget anything. This is not an all-encompassing list. This list may or may not be everything that you can use. Just remember that redundancy is good. Okay. And, I'm going to have more than one fire steel in, ferro rod in my kit, but I'm not going to mention it 5 or 6 times. So, everybody has to, look at what their situation is, how much they can carry, whether or not there's more than one family member in your home that can, take part of the load. So one person doesn't have to carry all the tools and the next person has to carry all the food, blah, blah, blah. So, anyway, let's get right into it. And we'll see how this works. If not, I'll just have to redo the video because I'm not real good at editing. So I kind of have to do it in one shot. Okay. The first area of survival that I've decided that I should start with, and most of these are in order of what I consider important until we get near the end. And then it's more of like what I forgot. So the first area of survival is shelter and cordage. Okay. And in there you're going to have your clothes first. Your first line of defense on your shelter is your clothes. And that includes a good hat or, summer or winter. Okay. Now let's speak of summer and winter bags real quick before I get too far into this. I don't believe that there should be a summer bag and a winter bag, because if you have to bug out and the SAS has really hit the F and everything, is gone to total crap, then you're not going to be able to go back. I'm a big one for an inch bag. So if you're going to have to leave, take what you need with you. And that includes winter gear as well as summer gear. Now that's going to make it more heavy. Okay. And it's quite possible it'll be too big and heavy of a bag for you. And it's quite possible it'll be too big and heavy of a bag for me. But when my new bag gets here, I'll pack it all up, put it all in there, see what fits, see if I can figure out some way to figure out how much it weighs, because I don't have a scale. But I'll be able to kind of tell. I'll pick up a 20-pound bag of dog food and see how much heavier it is than the dog food. So, but anyway, we'll get into it. Let's get into this. Shelter and cordage. Okay, your first line of defense is your clothes. Okay, that's your underclothes, like your maybe long johns, underwear. Now, speaking of underwear, you probably are going to want something that goes farther down, not like bikini underwear or thong underwear, butt floss. You're not going to want that for a bug out situation. Bicyclists undergarments. Okay, they go down on your leg about halfway down your thigh. That's going to really help with chafing. Okay, and chafing is going to be an issue, especially if you're walking or biking. You're going to want your clothes, your regular clothes, you're not going to want them tight and binding, okay? Because if you're going to have to climb up hills or go over fences or, if you have to cross a highway and, you have to go over the center median, whatever the case may be, you want your clothes to be loose and comfortable. Not loose enough to fall off, but comfortable. And also the dead air space between your clothes and your body helps insulate you against the cold. That's how layers work. It traps the air in between them, mostly. So your clothes is a huge line of defense. Now, when you got your hat, That's going to be a summer and a winter hat. Now that could be like a ball cap. I would suggest something more like a boonie cap, because it comes out and it shades you more. Okay, because you really don't want to have to deal with big sunburn, and if you're bugging out, because that just compounds a bad situation. You know, so you're going to want your sunscreen and everything with that, but that's with the medical kit stuff. You're going to need some sort of rain gear, whether it be a pant jacket set, a poncho, an umbrella, even if that's all you have. Do keep in mind, though, the umbrellas, you know, you get a stiff wind, it's done. It's broken. But you're going to need some sort of rain gear. You got to keep dry. Even if it's not cold outside, you need to stay dry. Just because of chafing, of being uncomfortable, you know, and if you try to go to sleep at night, you know, and if you're wet, that's worse. You could get sick, you know. So you're going to want something to keep the rain off of you. Even if it's a trash bag with a hole cut for the head and the arms. You need something. Something like a shemagh, you know, if you want to, you know, give yourself a little bit more shade and wrap it up to where, you know, only this much of your face shows. A lot of people use shemaghs for lots of different things. And they have sniper veils too that'll work as a shemagh. It's more of a net, like with a little bit bigger hole, like 1/4 inch hole. And you can use that to seine for fish. There's a lot of things you can do with a shemagh. And it's basically just a monster huge handkerchief. So softer, but it's something that a lot of your survivalists are using. I don't know for sure. I don't have one, so I don't know exactly how effective they are at helping you be more comfortable in a survival situation. Okay, you're gonna have to have some sort of a tarp, whether that be the plastic type tarps, which do not last long, just know that now. The canvas ones that are very, very durable but very heavy, or something like a sil nylon tarp, or polyester or ripstop nylon. You need something over your stuff. You need some sort of tarp. Now, I would suggest no smaller than 10 foot by 10 foot. Okay, because you get those little 5x7 ones at Walmart, and yeah, they'll work for some things. I have one. As a matter of fact, it's in my kit. And I don't have the big tarp yet, but I'll be getting one. Now, the smaller tarp can be used for a lot of things. It can be used, you know, like if you're using your bigger tarp for a shelter and you need to cover up your firewood and your pack because it's going to rain or snow or what have you, then yeah, that smaller tarp can come in handy. So, you know, even having 2 tarps wouldn't be a bad thing. You can have a tent. You know, the bigger the tent, the heavier it is. So if you're all by yourself, a bivvy tent would probably work, or something along those lines. But, you know, a lot of people will forego the tents. But if you think you might be in any sort of a winter situation, you might want to go ahead and spend the money for a decent little backpacker's tent. Don't get the Ozark Trail backpacker's tent. They won't shed water. They leak. They're crap. Okay, get a good one. You're going to pay between $100 and $300 real handy for a decent little 4-season tent. And make sure if you're going to buy a tent, you're going to pack it, make sure it's a 4-season. Or at the very least a 3-season, and you have a tarp. But I would suggest the 4-season tent. They have them on Amazon. They have them all over the internet. Just get something that will work for you. You know, and then a lot of those 4-season tents, it tells you how much it weighs. They went in like 3 to 4.5 pounds a piece. So I don't think any of them were under 3 pounds. No, I don't think they were. I think they were all between 3 and 4.5 pounds. Mostly between 3 and 4 pounds, which really isn't that bad for a good shelter system, because that's going to keep you warm, dry. You know, keep your stuff out of the weather. You know, who wants wet boots, right? If it starts raining and you get in your tent, and you get in your tarp and and the rain blows in, it's going to get your boots wet. So, or full of snow, or whatever the case may be. So, you know, having a tent isn't necessarily a bad thing. I personally don't think I'll be having one. I think I'm just going to go with the 2 or 3 thin, lightweight tarps, and basically configure my own shelter. We'll get there when we come to it. I have a tent, but it's a great big one. So, you know, I might use it when I go backpacking and show you guys how to do some stuff. But for a bug out situation, I'll never tote it. Now, if I have to go out in the winter and I have my sled, yeah, I might. But, you know, that's a whole nother situation. Everybody, like I said, everybody's situation is different. You need to have good footwear. Okay, that's part of your shelter. It shelters your feet. Okay, you need to have good boots, good hiking shoes of some sort, something. I would suggest something with ankle support, because do you really want to be bugging out, twist your ankle, and then have to hobble on a stick for days? No, it would really suck. So good boots, all right? And to go with the boots, you probably want to get a good pair of snow gaiters to go over your boots, especially if you're in a wintertime bug out. And those, what they do is they go down like from the knee down, and they buckle underneath the instep of your boot, and it keeps snow and things from coming inside of your boot, which it will keep you a whole lot warmer. I've watched a lot of winter camping and winter bug out videos, and all of them have gaiters on, and there's a reason for that. It's because they work. If you don't have one of those, then improvise one. Sew one up for yourself. Get something and sew one for yourself. If you know how to sew. The gloves, beanie hat and gloves, with the headwear, I said, winter and summer, you're going to want a good beanie cap. Wool is great. I wouldn't, I would just be careful which one you get. Some of them have flaps that come down over the ears, which is also nice. They'll tie up, make you look like some sort of pioneer, but hey, you know what? Who cares what you look like if you're warm and comfortable and you don't get overly cold and get sick? A good, good hat. Gloves. I've been over the gloves. Have 2 or 3 pair. Now, mechanics gloves are great. Winter gloves are great, but if you have to grab something hot, they'll melt. So you're going to want to make sure you at least have one good pair of leather gloves in there, even if you don't use them for anything except handling your hot cookware. But protect your hands with gloves. Mittens, if it's really cold, if you're in an area of the country that gets super cold, you're going to want those ones with the mittens, because the wintertime mittens keep your hands warmer, and you don't want frostbite. Okay, you can get frostbite on your face right here. You can get it on your nose, chin, cheekbones. So, when you're thinking of a winter hat, you might want to consider getting one of them ski mask types. Okay. And of course, you're going to, if you're going to be in any kind of a winter situation, you're probably going to want to get some of those goggles, those tinted goggles, so you don't get snow blindness. Now, you could probably make yourself a couple of things and put a little slit in them. Well, that's fine, but they're very limiting on your vision. If you get the tinted goggles, you can see, and you can get those in places that sell snowboarding stuff. They'll have good goggles. They even had some at the camping section in Walmart the other day. I was looking at those and I thought it was pretty cool, but I didn't get any because I didn't have any money. But anyway, you're going to need to have something over your eyes to shelter your eyes. If you do decide you want to have a tent, make sure that in there you've got your repair tape in case you get a hole in your tent, and also take the time before you even use it. Take the time to re-waterproof it. Okay, all the seams, spray the fabrics, everything. Just go completely over it with waterproofing so that when it's a must-do situation, you don't have to worry about it leaking. You can even turn it inside out and waterproof the inside as well. And that way you're protected. They have some stuff that they use for shoes. It's a liquid silicone, and it's on a dauber, and you can put it extra heavy on the seams, things like that. But I would, before you even mess with going out or putting it away and putting it in your bug out bag, go ahead and just go reseal it, because that's part of your shelter. That's the main part of your shelter in the wintertime. So you're going to want to make sure that shelter is as watertight as it can get. Now, you're going to need some sort of a ground cloth underneath your tent. You don't have to have one. A lot of them have waterproof bottoms, but what'll happen is that if you don't have a ground sheet of some sort underneath your tent, you'll get holes in the bottom of your tent. And then if it rains and water seeps into your tent, it'll seep up into your bag. Okay, so you're going to want some sort of a ground sheet. Now, depending on how much weight you can carry, how much weight you have, if you have a vehicle or not, a good ground sheet would be the shower pan liner. Okay, they have it's called shower pan liner. It's super thick. It's like almost an 18th, not quite an 1/8 of an inch thick, but it's super heavy duty. You're not going to poke a hole in it unless you just take a knife and shove it through it. It's super, super soft. It goes underneath the ceramic tile and a concrete shower pan when they're building houses. It comes on a roll. It's like 4 or 5 foot wide, and then you can buy it by the foot. They have it at Home Depot and Lowe's and places of that nature. It's called shower pan liner. Okay, really, really heavy, heavy vinyl. Now you can also buy it really, you know, if you don't want to go that route, if it's too heavy, you know, you have to decide all this for yourself, of course. You're going to want, you know, you get something for a ground sheet. You can get something like one of those super, super heavy mill shower curtains. Not the thin, cheesy ones, you know, but the really heavy, thick ones that you know, that you can buy at Bed Bath & Beyond and different places. You know, just make sure everything, you know, make sure it's the heavy duty one, whatever you do. It's the thickest one, shower curtain liner that you can get. Okay, you can use that as a ground sheet as well. You can use a tarp. You can use trash bags if that's what you want, but they're not going to be probably durable enough to keep holes from getting worn or poked into the bottom of your shelter tent. So it's something to think about. Now, you can get Visqueen. Anything, just get that tent up off the ground. Now, the Visqueen may not be tough enough either, but you could double it up. It doesn't weigh a whole lot. You know, depending on whether you're going to be bugging out to a retreat location or staying at home or bugging out in a vehicle or on foot, it depends on some of the things that you're going to need. Part of your shelter, of course, being your sleeping bag system. You know, I've got the MSS sleep system. My son bought it for me. I made a video about that. And it comes with a waterproof bivvy, which is another form of shelter, keeps the water off of me. But now, depending on what kind of shelter you come across, depends on what you're going to need and what you're going to use. You know, your bug out retreat might be a shipping container or one of those sheds. You know, your bug out retreat might just be a cave on a piece of property you have. Your bug out retreat might be a shed or a barn or a debris hut. So you'll have to decide yourself what kind of bug out retreat thing you got going on. Everybody's is different. You know, most people are just don't know, you know, which way to go with that, but I can't help you with that. You're going to have to decide for yourself whether or not you want to spend the money and get a place that is X amount of miles from where you are, that is sufficiently secluded enough that it's hard to find, not near any kind of highway. Maybe something that goes down a dirt road for 10 miles before you get to it. But whatever the case may be, you can stash things at your retreat location that you may need. And at that point, you probably wouldn't need some of this stuff in your bag. You could go to your retreat location. But do be aware that somebody may be there before you. Okay? So make sure you use proper amount of caution when you approach it. So another form of a retreat would be like an RV or travel trailer. It's a portable retreat. Okay? It's always best, if you have to bug out in a vehicle of some sort, because you can carry more stuff with you. It's best, the best case scenario is to stay at home, because you've got all your stuff there. You've got all your food, your medicines, your clothes, your everything, soaps, dishes, cookware, grilling accessories, you know, so you can cook stuff on your grill. All that's at home. So if there's any way you can stay, you should stay. But if there is no way you can stay and you have to bug out, you're going to need some things. So, sleeping bag, trash bags. Make sure you have a couple of real heavy contractor bags, 1 or 2 in your bag, in your bug out bag, so that if you need to use it as a ground sheet, or if you need to stuff it with leaves, or if you need to cut it open to make a small little tarp shelter to help keep your stuff dry, whatever the case may be, there's a lot of different uses for a couple of trash bags. I wouldn't use the cheap, cheesy, thinner ones. Go ahead and get the heavy-duty contractor ones. They don't like to tie on the top, but you know what? They're a lot more durable. So durable is good. Part of your shelter also should probably be an emergency blanket of some sort. Now, those thin, cheap, cheesy little ones you buy for $1, yeah, I suppose that would work. I even have one myself. I have to throw it away because a rat chewed a hole in it. But they have one that's a little thicker, that's like green on one side, and then it's got grommets on the corners, and it's got reflective on the other side. So that's a little bit better option. I would go ahead and get a little bit better emergency blanket than the cheap $1 one, if there's any way you can do that. So you're going to want that. The sleeping pad of some sort, whether that be a yoga mat or a couple of windshield reflectors laid down, something to get you off the ground, to keep that cold ground or wet ground from sucking the heat from your body. Okay, give you a little cushion so you're a little bit more comfortable. So you're gonna need something to sleep on. Your Thermarest and all those others, those are real expensive. I get it. I don't plan on probably getting a Thermarest because I don't want to spend the money on it. But I do have a couple of those reflective looking silver windshield reflectors. Those I have. I got 2 of them over here, and I plan on just overlap because one's not, unless you're super short like my sister was, one's not really long enough to do your whole body. So I've got 2. I'll just overlap them a little bit. So you got that. Something to get you up off the ground. Ground classic mat cordage. Yes, you're going to need your cordage. That's part of your shelter because you got to tie up your tarps, tie down your tent. Whatever the case may be, you're going to need your cordage. I just did a video on the cordage, so you can look at that and get some ideas. And, you know, like I said, this is not a complete list. This is just to get you started and get you thinking, okay? Make a list. Write all this stuff down. Go back and listen to it. Make a list as you go. Now, the second item of areas of survival I consider very important as well. It's fire and lighting. Fire more than lighting, because you can just work during the daytime and sit in front of your campfire at night. But, you know, if you're inside where there's no chance for having a campfire, you're going to need some sort of light. Now, but we'll get into the fire first. First and foremost, have one or 2 or 3 or 5 Bic lighters, okay? It's cheap. You know, you can get a whole package of them. Just throw them in your pack. They're dependable. They don't go out really fast, as far as they don't run out of fluid real fast. You can put one in each pocket, and one in a couple of pockets in different pockets in your bag, whatever. That way you've always got some way to light a fire unless they get wet. But you can always keep 1 or 2 in a Ziploc baggie, freezer baggie, and keep them from getting wet. You've got a magnifying glass, okay? There's different powers. The bigger the power on the magnifying glass, the faster it will light a fire, okay? I would suggest no less than 7x. I think mine is a 10x, but I don't know. I can't remember for sure, so don't quote me on that. There's bow drills. That's the hard way to start a fire, okay? You do need to practice some of these skills, and you need to learn them. Even if you don't have to use them, you need to learn how, because what if? Of course, that's what we do when we plan for contingencies. We plan for a what if. What if you're crossing a river and your pet gets swept away and you are cold, but you've got your bootlaces and your pocket knife? So you gotta make a bow drill set. Learn how to make it, practice it whenever, wherever you can. I've still got to do that myself. I have not practiced with the bow drill at all. So that is one of the things I'll be doing when I go out on my camping trips, is I'll be making them and practicing with them. You need to master the skill so that you have that skill. Once you've got it up in here, you're good to go, because you're not going to forget it. So, yeah, there's things like your ferro rods, okay, with your strikers. That puts a good spark out. You've got flint and steel, okay, where you can strike a sharp piece of rock and it shaves off little fine curls of metal, and they catch on fire, and they get your stuff, start your fire. You got fire pistons, okay, and basically what that is you put the tinder in the end of a little teeny tube, and then you smack it, and the compressed air, by smacking it, makes the tinder light on fire. Now, I don't know how that works, but it works. So you got fire pistons, but with something like that, you're gonna have to have O-rings on it. Now, in a long-term grid down situation, I don't know how long that O-ring would last. So, you could possibly get a spare O-ring, but then rubbers and plastics, they go bad after a certain period of time, even if they're kept in a dark, cool basement. So, you're gonna need your tinder to go with your fire kit. You're gonna need something like tinder fungus. char cloth, charred punky-wood, birch bark, cattail, milkweed fluff, dandelion fluff. All that stuff is like a flash tinder. It catches really fast, takes a spark really well, but you have to have your stuff dry and there so that that flash, which only lasts for a few seconds, catches the other stuff on fire. Now, as far as your lighting goes, there's all kinds of things you can use for lighting. I would suggest solar rechargeable, okay? Either hand crank or get a little foldable solar panel, and you have USB rechargeable stuff. I was looking, and you can find USB rechargeable headlamps, flashlights, hand warmers. Those little hand warmers. People buy the hot hands, but they're throwaway, okay? These, I've seen them where you can buy them. They are rechargeable. You charge them with your solar panel, you turn them on, and you put them down in your sleeping bag or in your pocket, and you can use them over and over and over again, which is, for a long-term grid down situation, that's going to be an ideal thing to have, because, you can only carry so many hot hands. I've got some in my pack, but I'm going to get me a USB rechargeable one, because that's the way to go. Now, they have on your glow sticks. You can get the glow sticks that are rechargeable, not by USB, but by the sun. Okay, you set them out in the sun, and then they glow at night until it goes away, and then you set them out in the sun. You can recharge them with a flashlight real quick, and they'll glow for a while. Okay, they're a little bit more expensive, but if you consider you buy a box of the chemical light sticks, okay, for X amount, like $1 a piece or whatever, you get a box of those. You get a couple of glow sticks that you set them out in the sun, and then pull them into your tent at night, and you have it's not a super bright light, but it's a light you can see to get into your pack to get something or to get changed and what have you, and it's reusable, and you can have it for years. Okay, so that's a good thing. Now, they have Lucy lights. What they are is they're little collapsible LED lights with a little small solar panel on the back. Set them in the sun, and then you blow up the container so that when it turns on, it looks like a big light. It glows like a big lantern, and those last really well. Lucy lights work well. Don't forget on your tinder. If you can get a hold of some fat wood, put it with your tinder. They have something also called a fire puck. I think they have them at Walmart. They're basically, it's like one of those little, those fake logs you get. It's just a little round puck that's about that thick. I don't know if those are wafers in there, if it's one big puck, but you can light it and it'll catch your wet wood on fire. I would suggest you have something in there to have in case you have to worry about wet wood, because if you're cold and you're wet and it's been raining and you need to get warm, you can't carry very much of that stuff, because pretty soon that pack, it'd take a bull elephant to move it. But one of them would help you in an emergency. A foldable solar panel. You can hang it off the back of your pack. Don't get something like a 7-watt, because it's only going to charge one item. You're going to want to get a 10 to 20 watt, probably pretty handy. I'm going to suggest Gold Zero. You can get cheaper ones than Gold Zero, but Gold Zero has a really good track record. So I'm thinking that because they have such a good track record, it might be worth it to just jump up and pay a little extra for it. If you get the cheap China knockoffs, and I was looking at them, and they're a lot cheaper, but if they fail me in a life or death situation, what would have been the better purchase? So yeah, some things you can go super cheap on, some things you might not want to, like your footwear or your solar panel. Now, you can go with the cheaper battery banks and things like that. You can charge off of it, but the main unit, I suggest, should be a better one. So what else is on here? Now, other ways of starting a fire would be, of course, matches. And then there's chemical combustion. Things, if you mix them together, will start a fire. Like varnish and rags, okay? You put some varnish on some rags and you wad them suckers up, and pretty soon they're hot. They're so hot they will catch on fire. Like tung oil or anything like that, varnish and rags, paint thinner, stuff like that. You can get those rags to spontaneously combust. Now, that doesn't mean that should necessarily be what you should do, because that's dangerous, and also it's pretty toxic chemicals. But it is possible, and there are things that you can mix that will just spontaneously combust. I don't know what they are. So don't ask me that one because I don't know. But it's there. And you smart guys that know all about chemistry, you probably know what I'm talking about. And the last thing I'm going to go over on this video is water and cooking. Okay. You're going to need, for water procurement, you're going to need, you're going to need containers for that water. You're going to need a pot to boil the water in. You're going to need something to put the water in after it's clean. You're going to need like a water filter if you don't want to boil it. You're going to need tablets if you can't do either. You might want to put a couple extra thin plastic bags in there for, aspiration. Like if you're in a drier climate, you can put it over some leaves on a limb and it'll get some moisture. You can make a solar still and put, if you're in the desert, and you can chop up a bunch of cactus and put it down in there. I wouldn't put leaves, because most of the time desert leaves aren't going to give you much moisture. But if you chopped up like a barrel cactus and you shoved it down in that hole, put the cup on top of it, spread the plastic and put the pebble in the middle, inside those cactuses is quite a bit of water. So yeah, you could get water that way. You can make a natural water filter, if nothing else. Now that's not going to sterilize your water. It'll filter out the stuff, but it's not going to sterilize it. It's not going to keep you from getting Giardia or Cryptosporidium or any of those others, or any viruses or anything like that. All it's going to do is filter out particulates. And, it does a mediocre job. Basically put the charcoal, the sand, the grass, the gravel, okay? You can find videos on that. It does work to filter your water, but it doesn't purify your water. So keep that in mind. They have SteriPens, and I'm sure they're USB rechargeable. And it's a UV light. And you could put that down in your water bottle and turn it on forever, however long it's supposed to be that way, to sterilize the water in your bottle. Okay. Which would be a pretty good long-term thing, so long as you can charge it with the USB. They had them I think they had them at Bass Pro. So it's a SteriPen. I believe I saw a video yesterday or day before, and don't give me the line who it was, but they went through, I know what, Step 1 Survival. Staff Sergeant Badass, that's who it was. He was at Bass Pro, and he went going through there, and I saw one of them there. And they also had the Katadyn, the really good ones with the pump, and they had a lot of different things. So, check out your local Bass Pro shop, because you're liable to find some really cool stuff there. There's a lot of survival stuff there too. What else? Oh, there we go. You're going to need some sort of a 4-way key to get water. That one, you can buy them down there at Home Depot in the plumbing department, so that if you come across a faucet on the outside of a commercial building, you can turn it on and get water out of it. A siphon hose of some sort. I've mentioned that before. You can get battery operated one, you can get hand pumped ones. So if you need to pump water out of something and you can't get your cup down in there or something, then you can siphon the water out. You're going to need cookware. Okay, you're going to need some sort of pot to boil water in. You might want to get some sort of frying pan. Depends on you. I'm going with the billy pot. There won't be a whole lot of frying done on it, in it, because, well, it's just the way it is. I'll be having to make lots of soups and stews out of that deal, because I can't carry a whole kitchen with me. So I have to choose. The billy pot will make my coffee. It'll cook my food. It'll do all sorts of things to sterilize my water. So that's what I'm going to use. Now, if you're staying at home, at your home, you have a lot of options for water. Your water heater is one of them. It'll hold 40 or 50 gallons, however big your water heater is. So that's a lot of water. The back of your toilets hold a lot of water. I wouldn't drink that water without boiling it, because it sits back in there and it's got algae in there and stuff like that. But it's water. You can get those big bags that go in your bathtub. If you know something's coming, put it in your bathtub, turn on your faucet and fill it up. You've got a whole bathtub full of water that's protected in a plastic bag. If you don't have one of those, put your stopper in it and fill your bathtub anyway. We have bottled water at home. Several cases, however many. You need to store a lot of water. People talk about cleaning out their milk cartons and stuff to put water in. You can, but the water's going to taste like crap, and it might have bacteria in it. Go ahead and buy the gallons of water. You can get them from 73 cents on up to $1. okay, for a gallon of water in its own brand new clean container that you can reuse. You can rain harvest with your guttering. You know, if you live out in the country and you have a well, you can get a hand pump if it's not a real big deep well. You can get a solar powered well pump. You can get a well bucket, which is a long tube bucket that slips down into existing wells. You have to pull the pump and stuff out, but the water's still down there, okay? And you know, it might be 150 foot down, 200 foot down, depending on where you live. So you might want to get a well bucket. And it's got a flap on the bottom in this tube. You drop it down in there, the flap comes up, the water comes in, and when you go to pull it up, the flap comes down, seals it off, and you can pull the water up your well. Okay, there's a lot of things you can do to get water out of that. You know, you're going to want maybe some pool shock. Okay, J.J. Johnson of Reality Survival and Prepping did a video recently on pool shock, and he actually did some in front of us and drank it in whole 9 yards, and it worked out great. Pool shock is like a dry bleach. You mix it with water to make bleach, because bleach has a shelf life and it gets ineffective after a while. In your backpack, you might want to put, you know, those super thin flexible cutting boards. Okay, they have the cheap cheese ones down there, like the Dollar Tree and stuff like that. They're you know, like the size of a sheet of paper, something to put your food on to prepare it. They weigh practically nothing. They'll slip anywhere in a flat part of your bag. A flexible cutting board would be good. Anyway, this particular video is over for now. That was one sheet. It's 36 minutes long. Oops. You guys, you know, like, comment, subscribe. Check out my links down below. You know, if you have any suggestions, feel free to put them down below. I try to read all the comments, and I try to let everybody know that I've at least seen their comments. If I don't reply on it, you'll get the thumbs up or the heart or both. Yeah, any and all ideas. This is for beginners mostly, but you know, there's some things in here that you may not have thought of, even if you're not a beginner. Like the fire puck is something I learned about today. So you keep learning, you keep expanding your knowledge base, and that way you know you've got all of your bases covered. But anyway, thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe, check out my links, and y'all come back and see me.